Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Camera Tuesday. In today's episode, we're gonna talk about Canon C500 Mark II. So let's dive right into it. Well, first we have to understand what we are talking about. We are talking about a full frame cinema camera. You have to understand it this way. Digital photography took over the world very quickly. However, cinema industry kind of lagged behind simply because in the early days there was not enough technology to move to digital video. I mean, like Star Wars prequel was shot in mind-blowing resolution of HD. Yeah, it's like a Sony cameras were specifically built. It was like size of a tank, specifically built just so it can handle full HD. So there is a lag in there, and the most common format, basically the size that is commonly used for digital cinema photography, is generally Super 35. Now it sounds like 35 millimeter. It's super. It's just inverted. Basically, instead of like this, it's like this. So they can have more frames in a roll. Benefit, more frame in the row. Side effect, it's more or less like a APS-C size. The surface area you have for actual use is more or less like a APS-C crop sensor, so it's not full frame. That is why this camera is a big deal, that Canon is going full frame. Now over the past few years, electronics have improved so much, and desire and demand for a large format cinema camera has gone so up that RE, which generally does not follow the trend, they built a huge camera like 65 millimeter, like almost double the surface area of a full, not double, like almost triple the surface area of a full frame, and that was used for basically Avengers Endgame and all that jazz. And there is another camera which was used for Dunkirk, which has like even a huge sensor, and for same sensor large format was used for Joker. So you can understand the cinema industry is moving to a point where Super 35 is just too small, so full frame is like starting point now. So this is a very quick response to that, because you have to understand Canon did had that. Even Sony had a quote unquote full frame cinema camera. Those were like very expensive, ludicrously expensive. So C700 was the Canon sensor. However, this time they are making it more quote unquote affordable. Now it's a proper raw 4K 60 frame per second. Now there are many full frame mirrorless that has one of those things, whether they have 60 frame per second, but it's not full frame. It will crop it, like Panasonic cameras. It has 4K, but it crops to like micro four third, like Canon EOS R. So there is always like some hoo-ha, like, oh no, you cannot truly do 4K 60 frame per second right now, and Sony does not even go to 60 frame per second. So you cannot really push 4K 60 frame per second reliably out of any of the mirrorless camera or hybrid camera. You need a proper cinema camera for that. However, even though this has so much oomph behind it, I'm like a giant sensor basically, still it's quite compact and small, relatively speaking. It's almost 1.7 kilo. It's more or less the same weight as Canon 1DX Mark II, Mark III. So that's what a big deal about it. And it also has internal ND filters. So what are the unique features about this? One of the amazing features that I really love is that they are going to CF Express. Now, if you're confused by what is this CF Express, XQD, think of it this way. Stompact fast cards did not sell as successfully. Sony's XQD card did not sell as successfully as they both expected. So they both joined forces. So Sony gave the physical standard, aka XQD card, and Compact Flash Association standardized the rules and regulation, basically protocols and all that jazz. So you got CFast Express. Now, why CFast Express is a big deal is simply because it changes the protocol itself. So older fast cards were basically SATA, the way you connect your normal hard drive. Now it's not a bad system. It's 600 Mbps capable, and I'm talking capital B, not small b, capital B capable. So this is a big deal. I mean, like, your computer runs on it, your SSD runs on it, Red Epic cameras run on that, Red Dragon, almost all Reds are on that speed. So it's quite good. However, when they switched, because Sony was already building a cinema camera, they had SXX, which was using PCI Express, not SATA, PCI Express. They were capable of much larger speed. So utilizing that, the new basically system that was created, CF Express system, it's on a different ball game. So on these cards right now available, you can easily find like up to 1 terabyte card, up to 2 terabyte card. On top of that, these cards can write, not read, write at 1.2 gigabyte per second right now, with the cards that are available right now. So that's almost twice as fast. Now the read can go as high as like 1.9 gigabyte. Now it's like, why does that matter? Well, that allows this camera to have raw internal recording, which Sony does not do, which almost no camera does that, because you need something that can absorb that kind of data. The only way you can achieve a true raw recording is basically having SSD recording, which is done on external recorder using Ninja 5 inches or something like that. So it's quite amazing they are going with this, and this is the next standard. Sooner or later it will catch on, and as companies as big as Nikon jumped into this, as big as Canon jumped into it, sooner or later it will catch on. So I can easily see this replacing SD cards on big cameras, and SD card will only remain as a micro SD for smaller things. So it's quite amazing. And this also workflow advantage. Think of it this way: you pull this card out, you give it to the person who is handling it. He's gonna dump the file into a server, and it can dump at 1.9 GB. Basically your whole footage done, go home, start working. So that's amazing. Like, if you can save a production house 5-minute times every time they have to empty the car, that's a lot of time and money saved. So amazing thing. And Canon did not stop there. Canon was like, okay, that's good, let's make it awesome. Now it has a micro SD card. I'm like, why the heck you have SD card? Because in production environment, proxy file is almost a necessary, because the raw footages are so huge, so intensive, computer intensive, that unless you have like a ludicrously powerful computer, even then you will not be able to handle it. So what do? You create a proxy file. So what this camera is doing is like creating a proxy file internally. Basically, you can be like, okay, use my CFast Express card to raw record, and SD card for my proxy file. So what does that allow you? This very amazing thing is basically you will generally have two people working for you. One, you will be your video editor, another would be your colorist. So you can literally take out the CFast river, give it to colorist. Colorist is like, okay, I'm gonna tune the color. Then you can give the proxy file to the video editor, and the video editing and coloring of the footage will go on simultaneously. So at the end of it, both of them could be combined without any issue, and you only have to render once and everything is fine and dandy. So it's quite amazing thing. And they listen to the customer feedback. Is like, C200, C300, they were good, capable camera. However, the touchscreen was like literally out of 2005 or something like that. It was so small, like it was not bad quality by any stretch of the imagination, but just too small. And it's a freaking cinema camera, you need to see. So this time they have updated the screen, so that's really useful. Now this is one big thing for Canon, is that Canon started to give swappable lens mount. Now that is a very big deal. Think of this way, because there are two major lens mount that is quite popular with the filmmaker community. One is Canon EF system, which Canon was like, I own that, I can easily give that. And there is another which is PF, which has been used for 150 years. So you can understand that like people want both of them. But with Canon, you either had to have a second camera with that exact mount, or you have to send your camera to Canon where they're gonna upgrade it. Same with Sony and all that jazz. So when Kfinity came out with this idea that, hey, we're gonna give you the camera, and adapter is something that you buy. Basically, hey, you use Sony system, okay, buy it, put Sony adapter. You want to use Canon system, buy it, put that adapter. So Canon is following footstep of Kfinity systems. That is quite amazing, and this is user swappable. So you do not have to go to a shop where they're gonna do it for you. You can literally buy and be like, hey, I have both of the adapter in my box. So if, let's say, for some professional shoot, they already have certain lens, they are already selected, it's like, bro, I got this. So that is amazing. And the whole design is literally learning from Red system, learning from Kfinity system, and it's much more modular than any previous Canon camera. So instead of just having, oh, you can have the viewfinder or not have the viewfinder, there they have, why not both? Basically, it's user replaceable. So that is the amazing part. This time it's like literally Canon listen to the public, and it's like, okay, we're gonna give you what you need, what you want. So feature wise, it's amazing. So what about the performance? Well, what do you want me to say? It's simply better than C200 and C300. However, do not expect your images to be like, whoa. Don't expect that. Do not expect like this camera to like directly compete with like, highlight roll off on a skin compared to Alexa camera. That is like Alexa's trademark. When you see Alexa, how smooth the highlight roll off is there in the Alexa camera, you're like, I'm not touching other camera. And you will understand why the heck Alexas are still a popular choice, even though Red exists. It's like they know that part. So Canon does not go that high. However, it does have depth of field. So think of it this way, that movie when you saw Joker specifically, they used that to like nth degree. And even the movie Her, that was both of the same actor, yeah, both of them were quite amazing. And you can see like shallow depth of field was used brilliantly. But if you want to do that, you need huge lenses. Huge lenses do not work well with small sensors. They need huge sensors. And like for Joker, they used this Alexa LF that was like 65mm medium format. So you get the idea. Like if your colleagues are going into shoot with Super 35, which is APS-C, you are going with proper 35, you're gonna destroy their ass. So it is very amazing, like that benefit, that alone, hey, my Canon lenses is now flexing its muscle. Now I'm getting that feel, the light, everything. You're gonna love it. Then the true aspect is that's 5.9K. Why 5.9K? Why not 6K? Again, 6K is a useless standard because if you crop it down, basically scale it down, it does not go 1:4. You always need 1:4 for proper what we call noise reduction. Basically, you can drop 8:4, no problem, because per pixel will mapped into 4 pixels. So it's quite amazing. But if you do 6, it's not 1:1 ratio compression, so it does not work that well. You still get some resolution boost, but it's not that great. And the sensor, I don't think they had the yield that matched to basically 6K, and again, it's not that much of a big deal. So you can utilize 6.9K in two ways. One, you take the same footage and use extract detail out of it, or you can use that as a pan tilt system. Basically that gives you flexibility, which you can utilize for image stabilization. Now another aspect, it goes up to 120 frames per second. Now Sony cameras can also do that. I'm talking cinema cameras, they can do 120 frames per second, but be mindful, the moment you do that in Sony cameras, they will drop the resolution. Basically your field of view would be like this, but resolution will go from 4K to full HD. However, when you do this with this, your resolution will remain the same, but your image basically sensor field of view will drop down drastically. Basically you will go from 0x crop to 2x crop, micro four third kind of crop. And Potato Jet has done that video, like it's like, whoa, full frame YOLO. And now why does that translate into a big deal? Think of it this way. Let's say you have an action scene planned out, you did the scene, and in some scene you want to interplace basically high speed footage. You cannot do that because you have to physically move back. The moment you move back, your framing would be the same, but the background will change because again you physically move backwards. So framing would be like, yeah, person is like this much, but everything behind them is looking differently. However, in Sony's case, it's much more easier to splice full HD footage into 4K footage while you are increasing the frame rate, because your eyes will absorb much more of the motion, so you'll feel high quality. So Sony's approach is better in this regard, and not to mention they drop autofocus also. So that, do not get too excited about it. It's like 60 frames per second. It's like, I got this, I'm the best in this, but don't expect anything above that. Now digital image stabilization. Now this is mindful, the moment you touch it, it disables the autofocus system. Autofocus, I'm saying, basically Canon RAW, you cannot get 12-bit footage out of it if you do digital image stabilization. And the image stabilization is, it's good but not great. And that is the reason why that 5.9K is important. The moment you do that, 5.9 will disappear, only 4K option will be there. So you can either rely on the camera's algorithm to do image stabilization, or you can shoot raw, direct raw, get all the color latitude, 12-bit hoo-ha, and then crop in the post-production. So if you trust your post-production, rely on them. If you don't, rely on the camera. Then you have two major options. So option number one, cinema raw light 12-bit. Option number one. Option number two, H.264 for some reason, 422 10-bit MP4. Now again, it will consume size, but we have to understand CFast Express cards can come up to like 1 terabyte. Right now you can buy 1 terabyte, and 4 terabytes are under construction. So that is the benefit of going to NVMe over PCI Express. Like whole computer infrastructure becomes open to you. So I can easily see the moment these cameras start to catch on, more cards start to come out, and the moment Samsung starts to release the cards for that, the price will come down enough. So performance wise, if you have this camera and you're not getting what you want, either you have misconfigured something or you do not know what you're doing. Basically, you cannot, after buying something, equipment of this caliber, you cannot say, hey, the camera is not suiting my need. So what about cost and competition? Well, the cost is huge. $12,000. So it's so big that if you are comfortable, or if you know exactly what you're doing, or if you're doing a lot of indoor shooting or studio shooting where you can control the lighting, you can be like, hey, I'm gonna buy let's say a full frame mirrorless camera, have uncompressed output from HDMI, have a Ninja with SSD, and I'm gonna get 422 10-bit RAW, and then I'm gonna invest the remaining money in lenses. You can get very close to this. However, not like you can still be limited to 12 stops of dynamic range, but this puppy goes to 15 stops. Now is that a big deal? In controlled light, no, but in uncontrolled light, basically think of this way: you're shooting outdoors and randomly clouds started to come in and you have to match the exposure, most camera will become useless. This puppy is like, I got this. That is the reason why people invest in cinema camera. That is the one USP of cinema's camera. It's like, I got this. You can trust your cinema. Like if you are aimed at correctly, it's gonna give you the footage. So do you need that? For a documentary shooter, it's a must, because they do not control anything. For cinema, they have a bit of latitude, because they can control if the, like, in Wakanda scene, basically they had, like, clouds randomly coming in, so they had to introduce a lot of artificial light to blend it in. Again, sometimes you will not have that luxury, so you need a camera that can capture it. So it's a big investment. For lightweight workload, no, but for medium workload, this is kind of investment, a bearable investment. Now, what about any other alternate? So alternate wise, you have Sony FX9. Now FX9 is a successor to FS7, which was surprisingly successful with TV industry and Netflix TV shows. Basically, surprisingly, a lot amount of them directly bought them. So those people are just jumping into this. They are not even considering about basically Canon system. Again, you have the system, you know how this works, you can utilize this. Now it has some pros, some cons, obviously, sometimes, and it's bigger. That is one thing I cannot that is absolute. If you need small camera, do not even think about this. But if you are comfortable with, like, not having or internal raw, you can basically look into Sony, and that is why the Sony is still stuck at XQD, even though that is their own format. They may release a firmware update in the future, same way Nikon did that. They may release a firmware update where this puppy can also accept compact flash express card. That would be amazing. But right now, it has some unique advantages that will make it more basically palatable, but not that many. Then you come to Kfinity Marvo LF, which is like $2,000 cheaper, and they are releasing, like, multiple lens mount option, where you can have if you are buying a smaller sensor camera, you can get a speed booster integrated into the adapter, or you can be like, hey, I'm gonna, like, I have Sony lenses, this puppy allows you Sony. You have PF lenses, it allows you PF lenses, it allows Canon lenses. So that is the amazing benefit of that Kfinity system. A lot of lens selections, so it has amazing thing, but does not have dual card system. Both of them have dual card slot, this does not have that. Now what about Panasonic SH1? Quite amazing, quite limiting in weird ways, like random crops and other hoo-ha. But if you can move around that, the biggest issue with this system is it does not have that much lens selection. So competition that is in, like, the three main competitors there, basically Sony, Canon, and Kfinity. So again, now Kfinity is one USP, one unique selling point, that it's genuinely awesome. It can go as high as 100 frame per second without any crop. So if you're doing if you truly have to do, like, a lot of high speed footage, that is one unique selling point. So competition wise, each of them, like Sony has some like specifically one feature people love, like specifically documentary shooter, is like it's a variable ND filter. Like once they use it, they're like, yeah, I'm not going back to internal khatang ND filters. I'm like, give me this. So for many people, that alone is like, yeah, I'm buying this, I don't care about it. And autofocus is becoming good enough, but this puppy does not have autofocus. And there are other people who's like, autofocus, what is that? So it's up to you. So as of now, I'm very happy with Canon, because this time they really seems like, oh, they are listening to the public, they are learning from their competitor, they're doing quite many things right. So this was my presentation on Canon EOS C500 Mark II. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.